Hi, this is Rend Smith, and this is Shoresides. Some time ago, way back in 2016, in Wilmington, North Carolina, I met and worked with a poet on a project, Delphia Simmons.
I was born in D.C., but I spent most of my childhood in southeastern North Carolina. My mother's from Wilmington, so I have always been arriving in Wilmington. I have a big ton of relatives in Wilmington.
She'd grown up in the area for reasons she explained and tie into what this episode is about. She's relocated to Raleigh.
Borough. That's where my mother's from. Her house used to be where the end of the runway is now, the southern end of the runway.
She considers herself a longtime resident of the port city.
We then moved to Pender County, North Carolina, where I graduated from high school. I then attended both the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and the University of North Carolina at Wilmington. What else do you need to know? How long did I have an address in Wilmington? For about 6 years, 2013 to 2019.
Back then, as I sweated it out riding my bike around town, I noticed Delphia arriving at events we mutually attended in a nice air conditioning car, a RideShare.
The more you use it, you get like these little like freebie miles and stuff.
Knowing poets aren't exactly flush with cash, I asked her about it, wondering about the expense and if I could swing it too.
And because I was using RideShare when it first was happening in Wilmington, it was actually affordable to do that. At that time, they weren't as into when you price things higher at certain periods. There was some of that, but it wasn't nearly as bad as it is now.
Delphia had a vehicle and a license, but that didn't necessarily amount to reliable transportation.
I had a car, but it didn't want to run. It was on its last legs, and it kept cutting off. There was a car in that in-between age where getting it fixed was actually not going to be worth doing that. So eventually, I just got rid of the car. So that's why I started using so much Lyft and Uber.
The key for Delphia was doing that strategically.
You get on the app, you say you need to go to Paris Theater. You're trying to pick non-peak time, and you try to do as much running around as you can. Let's say you have to go to the grocery store, you have to go to the drugstore, you have to go to the hardware store. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to try to find a shopping center that has all three of those things there, so you can make one trip. And this is how you pretty much arrange your shopping and bill-paying life.
Eventually, she noticed that beyond changing the way she shopped, her mode of transportation was having these other ripple effects.
You may want to do a mom-and-pop drugstore, but that would mean having to make a special trip for that. So you make the decision, I'm going to be with CVS, or I'm going to be with Relo, or whatever, because those are in shopping centers.
Though Wilmington has a public transportation system, Delphia didn't feel comfortable relying on it.
It should not take you an hour and a half to go from the north side of Wilmington to the hospital. But depending on what bus you take, it can take you an hour and a half to do what you can do in a car in 15 minutes. Plus, when you're doing RideShare, you've got a trunk. You don't have to try to hold all these bags on a bus. A bus is going to take you hither and yon before it takes you to where you want to go.
What started out as a choice or a lack of choice regarding transportation led to making other choices.
What you're doing is you're trying to find a way to use a private company for public transportation. Because as we know, public transportation, particularly in smaller cities, just is not good. Which also means that you have to find work that allows you to do that. Which is when I first started working online, because then it didn't matter. I could stay at home and get paid. But your transportation, because it's so scattered, it winds up being the prime mover of other parts of your life. When you don't provide for the public, okay, or you provide shitty service for the public, you're basically pushing people into the private sector, whether they want to go there or not.
Ultimately, Delphi explained, it's why she left Wilmington. There was a job offer in Raleigh that came with a dependable car she could use in her spare time. She could shop wherever she wanted, see friends, or run errands. That kind of opportunity hadn't presented in her hometown, and maybe that's not accidental. A former guest, a transportation expert, explained to us how Wilmington had one of the highest percentages statewide of households that have no personal vehicle access. When a city is difficult to get around for people without cars, it's not just inconvenient. Along with other factors, it can change its makeup. Someone like Delphia can be displaced as surely as others get displaced by hurricanes. In the meantime, those who can afford to stay, to own cars and homes in the city she grew up in, get to claim locality and permanence, that her community is theirs now and exclusively. That got us here at Shoresides wondering about something. If there were people in Wilmington with the same needs as Delphia, using RideShare in the same way, we approached the two most well-known RideShare companies looking for help finding out. While Uber never replied, the company Lyft helped us investigate. Welcome to Shoresides, where we tell stories about coastal North Carolina.
And driving for Lyft, I can really gauge my days. Like if I feel like my battery's at 100%, then I'll go give it 100.
That's Jace Esterline, riding around with producer Aaleah McConnell on the north side of Wilmington.
But if I feel like my battery's at maybe like a 40 that day, I can really push it at 40 and not stress about it. And then I get to spend time with my wife, and we're in the process of doing IVF, so it really helps us save for that right now.
After a medical diagnosis, Jace was out of work for a few years and started driving Lyft about 7 months ago. Jace gets the usual inquiries from riders in the backseat, the kind I usually ask, even though I kind of know the drivers must be tired of answering them.
How long have you been doing this? Why are you doing this? People are very curious about why you would let someone into your space, right? But I think I just know people. I've been around a lot of different people in my life. So for me, my experience is going to be a lot different than someone else that's driving for Lyft, right? I just feel very confident and comfortable in a lot of different situations.
Jace, according to Lyft, is currently the most popular driver in the city.
Yeah, lots of good things happening. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jace, how many rides would you say you get on average per day?
My limit is about 10 to 15 rides a day.
Jace is the other side of the rideshare equation, the kind of personable driver that keeps riders like Delphia coming back, all the while working flexible hours.
I do get a lot of rides from this area specifically, and a lot of them are medical-based, kids that are going to and from school events, sporting events. I also get a lot of folks that are just trying to get to and from work. That's a big bulk of it.
Yeah.
A lot of folks going to and from work around here. Now that we're driving around, I do pick up from this area quite a bit. I'm starting to notice it more.
So Jace's experience, it's a lot different from the way I previously thought of rideshare as this kind of luxury, kind of like a workaday limo service for people going out to the bar or going to a concert where there's bad parking. People using it essentially as a convenience. Instead, Jace seems to function more like rickshaw drivers in other countries, helping people get to where they absolutely have to go. Jace tries to help out however possible.
I know myself, being someone who spent 2 weeks in a hospital and going back and forth to doctor's appointments a lot, that sometimes life is just life and you don't have time to grab a snack or something to eat, or you have to fast for an appointment, and you're taking this ride share back home, so you're not going to pay an extra amount to stop somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times I get, is this free? I'm like, of course.
Yeah. So this is a real service for you.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask if you could quantify it, how much of a percentage are the people that you pick up are the ones that may lack transportation
I'd say a
versus...
good 60%. It's a
Wow.
large chunk here. Majority of them are going to be doctor's appointments, going to and from work, getting to and from, grocery store, etc.
What about the other half of riders that you get? What are they more likely to use, Lyft for?
A lot of them are going to different events around town. They're going on dates. That's always really fun. They're doing birthday celebrations or a group gathering or some sort.
Either way, Jace tries to connect with them, and often more than once.
When they tell me, hey, how do we get you again? Because that happens a lot. I say, favorite me as a driver, and it'll ping me if I'm around, working, and we'll link up again. And that's worked a lot of times because I pick up a lot of the same folks, and I would venture to say that some of them are becoming like friends when you talk about, I almost like like a therapist, or a friend or whatever. And it's also just like comforting knowing I'm picking up the same people. I know who they are, right?
Man, who would have thought that you could, bridge so many gaps with driving rideshare? Do you have to really trust somebody to, get in their car, have them take you to where you need to go. And I feel like it kind of creates this environment where you can just be vulnerable with this person you just met. And you're only going to talk to for the length of your ride.
So, from Delphia's point of view, rideshare in Wilmington can be about transportation infrastructure. From Jace's perspective, building community. Meanwhile, we learned from Lyft that it can also be a vital part of something you never expect, emergency response. One way that was illustrated was when the last really large winter storm hit Wilmington.
My name is Sarah Conlisk. I do data storytelling for Lyft, the rideshare company.
For some reason, I imagine Sarah had unlimited access to Lyft rides.
We don't get free rideshare, alas. But I do in New York. We get free City Bike, which is the bike share program. I do a lot of City Bike. And honestly, City Bike, it's faster often than taking a car when you're in New York because the roads are so trafficy.
At first, rideshare wasn't necessarily on her radar.
My background's in economics. I was working at the Federal Reserve Board before, and I love economic research. I love that sort of analysis. But what every economist needs is good data.
When I thought about her work, imagine this huge view screen, though I'm sure that's inaccurate.
Basically, I have access to the millions of anonymized ride level data, and I aggregate it in different ways to find trends and tell stories about transportation in North America.
Though for the sake of privacy, Sarah couldn't tell us about individual riders. She gave us a data picture of what happened during that storm.
In Wilmington, it looked like the biggest winter activity storm was Storm Gianni. So that was on January 31st to February 2nd about. Well, I looked around that time with these same sort of statistics. And so on February 1st, it looked like new riders in Wilmington increased by 40%, and then 34% on February 2nd. So you do see that like big increase those 2 days following the big impact of the storm. Food is essential. And of course, people need to go out to get that. When Wilmington rides to the grocery store, we're up 35%. It was the highest for grocery and also one of the highest for going to work, actually. A lot of it looked like a lot of North Carolina, the share going to work actually somewhat under-indexed during the storm for almost all cities there. I'm guessing people just called a snow day and didn't go in. But Wilmington was one of the closest to like normal levels. It was at 95% normal level of share of rides to work. And then we saw something similar with the healthcare destinations. So in North Carolina, the whole state, the destinations or trips to healthcare destinations were 17% above average, again, indicating that riders were only leaving their homes for the most high stakes trips. I found that tips for drivers were nearly 30% higher during the winter storm in North Carolina overall. So that does point to the riders' gratitude.
Gratitude isn't the only thing Sarah's data could show us, however. For a while now, Shoresides has been part of a coastal journalism hub along with outlets like the Wilmington Star News, looking at two neighborhoods in Wilmington where there's an important 17-year longevity gap. And we asked Sarah if she could share with us, through Lyft data, what the differences in those communities look like. She sent along some charts, and we asked one of our hub partners, who Shoreside's producer Nicholas Magrino talked to take a look.
I'm Anna Casey. I am the Associate Director of Research and Insights at Cape Fear Collective, but essentially I'm a data journalist and data scientist.
All right, so we are live. I'm speaking to you today about life expectancy data. So kind of take me through what you gathered, how you gathered it, and what you learned.
Yeah, it was Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and the National Association for Public Health Statistics and Information Systems. And it was done for the period 2010 to 2015. So there is a little bit of a data lag, but we also looked at several other indicators around life expectancy as part of this data story. But what we found is New Hanover County has, on aggregate, the county has a pretty good life expectancy. I think it's one of the best in the state. I think I want to say 11th highest out of 100 counties. But when you start breaking it down by neighborhood or looking at racial disaggregations, you start to see there are these huge disparities. And in particular, there is a 17-and-a-half-year gap between two neighborhoods within New Hanover County.
There are a couple of ways to hear that number. One is as a health statistic, but Anna was looking at it another way too. Because when she compared the RideShare data, the difference between those neighborhoods showed up not just in how long people live, but in where they go.
In the low life expectancy neighborhoods, is they are using this as transportation infrastructure. They're using it to get to school, to the grocery store, to food, to their jobs, to work. And then when you look at these high life expectancy neighborhoods, they're using it to get to the airport. Now, I don't think like a causal relationship or anything. I think that there are probably some underlying factors that affect both, right? I think that people in the north side are likely using Lyft for transportation infrastructure because they have less cars and they don't live near a grocery store.
Is there anything, looking at this data, you would want to know more about? Is there anything like your journalist brain kind of telling you, hey, there's something there we should look more into?
Well, one of my first questions is, where are all the bus stops? And we do have that data, but that's definitely something I want to look into, is how far are these low life expectancy neighborhoods from the nearest bus stop? And how, even if they are near a bus stop, what do the bus schedules look like for them, right? Because that's part of speaking to the transportation infrastructure piece. I think also looking at food-related disease within the different neighborhoods can speak to the food infrastructure piece. I can tell you for a fact that in the literature, there is a very strong link between food insecurity and low life expectancy.
So in one Wilmington, RideShare was a way to get to the airport, go out. In another Wilmington, it looks more like what Aaleah described at the beginning of this episode. A private company filling in when the public system doesn't reliably get people where they need to. Even though I'm not necessarily a numbers guy, even I can see what's happening here. Survival. A form of public transportation that doesn't come with any subsidy. As it turns out, the city is actually working on that, something we hope to dig into in a future episode. The question is, can it work? Anna keeps a list of what she still wants to know. We'll keep following those questions with her.
I think is that it can be easy when it's just narrative or just anecdote. And I don't mean by just, I think narrative is really important, to be clear. I'm not saying just, but I think it can be easy to write it off as, oh, this is individual behaviors or this is individual decision making. But once you start to look at numbers, you can start to see something systemic is going on. This is an entire neighborhood. These are two entire neighborhoods, right? You can start to look at infrastructure and systems and say, this isn't just one person or one family that is experiencing this. This is an entire percentage of people. And I think there is something to be said against reducing people to numbers, but I think that's why it's important sometimes to look at the numbers.
This is Shoresides. Thanks for listening.
Special thanks to Lyft and the Coastal Journalism Hub. Learn more about Shoresides at shoresides.org.